our practice for our mindful morning, I wanted to just make a couple of notes here about what we're doing. So, we are working with an acronym called RAIN, RAIN, and the first letter is recognize, allow, and today is day 2 on RAIN. So, we'll be working with the word allow, and then inquiry and nourish. And this practice is coming from this book from Tara Brach, and there are other resources on the RAIN acronym as part of mindful practice. But I love Tara's work, and she's one of my teachers. So in this book, and she has lots of resources online, you can seek those out. Feel free to reach out to me also if you'd like to have a conversation. I'm on social media as Beth A. Smith. The other thing I wanted to mention is these teachings around RAIN, sometimes the word accept is used, and I choose to use allow for some really specific reasons because what we're doing right now in the practice is learning to stay with what is. And that has the essence of allowing it to be there. So, acceptance is a little bit more active process. So, what we're going to be working with today is sinking into this sense of allowing what's here to be here. And then it's really important, especially when we talk about allow, that I mention uh, in these practices, we aren't allowing experiences that are unsafe, whether they be physical or emotional lack of safety. Those are situations we just leave. And if you need support for that, please reach out to someone that can be of support to help you in a situation like that. We're definitely not practicing allowing or staying when things are unsafe. So let's practice together. So if you would just begin to take a transition moment here and connect with your posture, making any slight adjustments that you would like to be comfortable in your body. Having a sense of uprightness, while at the same time having a sense of being relaxed. And take a moment to find your body, just actually locating your body. Whatever that means to you. And this morning, in this brief practice, we're going to work with sensations on our face. So begin to draw your awareness to your face. Just see what you notice. Any sensations around your eyes, your lips. They may be moist or dry. Your forehead, your cheeks and chin. And as we begin to start practicing more with a sense of space, see what might soften in your face. It can be helpful on the next out-breath to allow that out-breath to provide the face with some feedback that it can actually follow the breath and relax. See what might want to soften in your face. Often we're unaware of how much tension we carry in our face. And if it's helpful, you can actually smile, an indistinguishable smile, like no one would know you were smiling, just you. And see if that brings a sense of softening, lightness, and ease. And just take one more breath in and out. And as you're ready, you can drop that practice and start to transition. And if your eyes are closed, you can open them. So I wanted to kind of shape a little bit the R and the A of rain, which is where we're hanging out yesterday and today. Um, R, recognize, right, is how we start waking up to what's happening. And this A, the allow, is where we start to learn to stay there for a second. And this is developing our capacity for awareness. And tomorrow we'll start to transition to more of how we befriend the experience even more. So right now we're working in that awareness area, and the next 2 days we'll start working on cultivating compassion for what is coming up and what's happening. So when we talk about learning to stay, it really is, in my experience, one thing I've learned in this practice is these are like little mini vacations, if you will, right? So many of us have been thwarted from our ability to go on vacation and during the pandemic time, and many of us are getting back to traveling and getting away for weekends or longer periods of time away. But when we learn to stay in the experiences that we're having throughout the day, I like to think of them as like micro vacations, right? Where we don't really need to go anywhere to gain a sense of ease and calm, what we really desire out of vacations, like a getaway or a shift in our everyday experience. So think about that as we talk about allow, that these are like micro vacations and they have so much opportunity in them for us. What we're going to focus on primarily in our short time together is working with more difficult experiences, but it's also really, really helpful. And I'll give you something to take with you today to practice around staying with joy and happy things as well. So when we talk about stay, I always come back again and again to this idea of what we're actually doing is learning how to be in relationship with what's happening as if we were encouraging a child or training a dog, a puppy. So, certainly when we have young ones in our lives and our four leggeds, we know that if we're harsh with them and we're unkind, they tend to start shrinking back and away and avoiding us. So it's the same in our own experience. When we're harsh with ourselves around what's happening in our inner experience, then we actually ourselves start to shrink back and shrink away from the experience. So I share this story pretty often. I have a daughter, and she has a dog, and his name is Oliver. So I have a grand dog. I'm a grandparent, and he is a miniature schnauzer. So he, by nature, is very active, right? And we also have a cat. A couple years back, Maya was living with us for a while with her dog Oliver, and they're big friends. Our cat's name is Lily, and they play a lot. Now, one of the experiences that I recognize often and continue to work with over all these years is irritation. Like I feel I get irritated, like, ooh, it's like fingers on a chalkboard. So when Oliver and Lily play together, he barks a lot and he chases her and she teases him and they're doing this. And, the first time it's like, okay, not great. But then about the fifth time, right, that irritation has really worked itself up in me. And while they were living with me, I started, that irritation moved me into not being as kind as I would want to be. And I would go over and sort of, kind of sternly tell Oliver to stop barking and chasing Lily. And, he would do his best to kind of try to do what I was asking him to do. And after a number of weeks, I started noticing that when that wasn't happening and I wasn't irritated and I wanted Oliver to come sit with me or go on a walk or, play in the backyard, that when I would call him, he wouldn't come. And he would just sit there and look at me. And it actually broke my heart a little, like, oh, like that's a hard experience. So again, recognizing, I woke up to that and I really changed the way that I was interacting with him. And I would notice the irritation after about barking and chasing number 3. And I would go over to him and I would pick him up and I would hold him. I would tell him I loved him and I would bring him to sit down with me. And what I noticed was my whole experience changed, right? It was less about what Oliver was doing and more about how I was in relationship to myself. And then how that inner tension in me started going out, right? It was that tension that then came out toward another being that I love. So as I changed what I was doing inside, changing that tension, then I was able to do something different that's much more in alignment with my values, and be able to be in direct relationship with what was happening. So this inner tension that goes out, right? That's what we're paying attention to. And then we're holding it, we're pausing here and holding that inner tension just for a few moments and seeing what might happen differently as we practice. We're building a muscle essentially, right, to stay with what's happening. But actually, the muscle isn't about overdeveloping the muscle, it's about flexibility. So some folks talk about like having a really strong mind, like, oh, that person's really has a great capability. Their mind is really strong. But really, a flexible mind is the one that will go a distance. Certainly, a strong mind will be able to do many things in short periods of time, but a flexible mind actually is built for a longer journey. So that's what we're working with, is really helping our mind, again, as we were working with our face, seeing what will soften, dropping in, hanging there for just a few seconds, microseconds, and then seeing, okay, how can I now go back out into the world? People that do high mountain climbs also know this practice of what's called a rest step, right? So I've been up high a few times, not a lot, but I know people that do this frequently. And it's called the rest step. Mountaineers, as they get up above the tree line, as they're walking, there's almost an indistinguishable rest step in between each step. So that's really what we're talking about here. Is it's not that you're going to take a big long break, or you've got to go on a long walk. It's really about having the ability to, in a moment, turn your attention inside, noticing what's happening, allowing that to be there, naming it simply, allowing it to be there, and then making a choice to go back outside. So I hope it's helpful to have some of those concepts to work with as you consider using these practices in your life. I think there's the quote from Viktor Frankl, and if you know Viktor Frankl's work, he wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, and his book is written about his experience as a Holocaust survivor. So I trust his experience knowing how to work with difficult things. And he's very well known for this quote, and it's this quote: "Between the stimulus and response, there's a space." I'm just going to stop there for a second, and I'll repeat it. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So that is just a beautiful quote. And I'm going to say that quote again at the end of our practice today. So you can just hang out there with that quote for a second and see what that means to you. So let's practice together for about 4 or 5 minutes here. And I'm going to use the words in this practice, this guided practice from Ruth King. And I really love Ruth's work. She's a teacher of color that I follow and appreciate her work so much. And let's just take a transition moment and begin to draw your awareness to your body. Just locating your body, finding your body, whatever that means to you. You might find your body breathing naturally for a moment here. And what I'd like for you to do is think about a situation, nothing too difficult, but something that has just that little bit of, irritation, frustration, aggravation, something like that. Something that you know comes up for you frequently. Something you know about yourself that kind of is like that fingers on a chalkboard for you. That barking dog for you. That subtle wish that something was different for you. And just bring that to mind. And see if you can notice if there's discomfort there, where it makes you uncomfortable. Is it a lot of mind activity? Can you sense something in your body? Somewhere in your body that's signaling you that this is uncomfortable, unpleasant. And then in your emotions, how do you know that situation from how you emotionally respond? And then here's Ruth's words for us. If you feel some discomfort, consider that your discomfort is a core competency for waking up. So if we deny the discomfort or actively try to push it away, we actually miss the opportunity to build the competency for waking up. So in this way, the discomfort becomes more friendly. And we can start to befriend our experience, trusting that the discomfort is actually an opportunity to wake up. If you feel some discomfort, consider that your discomfort is a core competency for waking up. And I'll repeat this Viktor Frankl quote as well. Between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So as we prepare to drop this practice this morning, just following your breath for a few more in and out breaths. Using this moment as a mini vacation. A quiet inner moment. And as you're ready, you can begin to drop that practice. So I'd like to offer you a couple of practices as you go through today. And the first one is around one of these guys. You probably have a phone. So this is related to phone practice. And no, I'm not going to ask you not to use your phone all day. What I want you to do is use your phone all day like you always do. But what I'd like you to do is as you pick your phone up to do something with it, which we do so many times a day, and I know my habit is when I pick it up, I get really into it. I want you to just stop a second and see what will soften in that moment. So just pick up your phone like you normally would and start using it. And as soon as you remember that this is an opportunity to practice, just pause for a quick second and see what might soften in that moment. And then go right back to what you were going to do on your phone. And see if you can practice that maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times today and just see what you notice. The other powerful thing in these practices is sharing them with other people. So if you choose to do working with your phone and then softening as soon as you notice that you're on your phone, see if you've got a friend or a family member, someone you love and care about. See if they'll practice with you, and then you can talk about what you might have learned from doing that. And then secondly, because our time is limited, I want to offer this practice of allowing joy. So as you go through your day, I was up early this morning and had coffee up here at Ziggy's, and I just sat for a bit and really enjoyed the moment, allowing the moment of having coffee and sitting alone and listening to the sounds of cars going by and people talking in the distance. So also use this as a way to practice with pleasant experiences. Because the reality is, if we wait to try to practice when we're having a really difficult experience, unfortunately, we'll be like that puppy that tries to run away from us. And we won't have cultivated the skill to stay when it matters most. So amplifying joy is this practice, is just feeling a moment of seeing someone you haven't seen, or greeting someone at work or in your social life, and just feeling the joy of seeing someone you care about. Those are just some ideas of how to practice for today. Learning to stay. No matter what the experience is, if it's happy, light, and pleasant, or irritating and uncomfortable, disappointing. All of these are things that we can use to practice. So tomorrow we'll move into inquiry, and we start really working with cultivating more compassion for our experience. And then Friday we'll conclude with nourish. And as I say always, right, you don't need to attend all of these. You can attend one and use those practices. But these practices really do work beautifully together, but they don't always need to be sequenced. So appreciate you joining so much. Thank you for your attention and your time. And I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday. Be well, friends. Thank you.